While the original Fatal Fury surpassed the original Street Fighter, Fatal Fury had nothing on Street Fighter 2, which was released that year, just a few months prior. Despite all this, Fatal Fury did well enough for SNK to warrant a sequel.
Again, legendary men return. Fatal Fury 2!
Yep, just 1 year later, SNK would grace arcades with Fatal Fury 2. But that game also would be surpassed by another game 1 year later. No, not Champion Edition. Well, kinda. No, I'm talking about Fatal Fury Special, the updated re-release of Fatal Fury 2 that came out a year later. Wow, imitation really is the greatest form of flattery. I will say that Special did more for SNK than Champion Edition did for Capcom, especially on an industry level. I'm not even gonna bother with Fatal Fury 2, as Special has everything it has in it and then some. All you need to know is that it came first. Not much is known about the development of these games going forward, so let's get into the meat and potatoes of the video.
Fatal Fury.
That's a pretty brief intro. 2's was short also, so I guess that carried over. Anyhow, the plot of Fatal Fury Special is the same as 2, except for one key difference: Geese being revealed to be alive and hiding in the shadows during the events of the game. All you really need to know is that Geese's half-brother steps in and sponsors a new tournament. His name is Wolfgang Krauser, and he is expanding the KOF tournament beyond the streets of Southtown to the rest of the world. That's basically it. The character roster gives us a little bit more context as to what's going on, so let's check him out. Terry Bogard. He's back and he's competing in Krauser's tournament. From what I can tell, he has zero beef with him. He's probably in this just for the hell of it. Andy Bogard. He's back too. He's curious about who's hosting the tournament, so he enters to find out. Joe Higashi. Joe is competing too. He's doing it for fun, I guess? Wow, these guys have absolutely nothing going on. At least with Ryu, you had the whole Satsui no Hado thing going on. Tung Fu Ru. Duck King. He's just cool as fuck. Okay, well, that's all the playable characters from the original Fatal Fury that made it into this roster. Geese is there, but he technically didn't show up or compete, so there's no point in really talking about him. Hua, Michael, and Richard cameo in both versions, with either of them getting beat up by Krauser or cameoing in the endings of other fighters. Well, let's talk about the new guys. Mai Shiranui. She's the heiress to the Shiranui ninja clan and Hanzo's granddaughter. No, not those guys. She fell in love with Andy while he was training under Hanzo. Big Bear. This is just Raiden doing his babyface gimmick after he got beat in the last game. Kim Kapuan. He's a taekwondo master with a strong sense of justice and righteousness. He might be the first Korean fighting game character ever made. He's named after the founder of the company that localized and imported SNK games for the Korean market IRL. Cheng Senzan. He trained under Tung alongside Geese and Jeff. He became a wealthy businessman and enters the tournament to gain publicity to start a dojo. Jubei Yamada. He's a judo master and a friend of Hanzo's. He takes up training Mai after Hanzo leaves to train Andy. Now, if you're playing vanilla Fatal Fury 2, this was your whole roster. Well, minus Geese, of course. But Special gives you a few more options to mess around with. Axel Hawk. He's a former heavyweight boxing champion. Krauser hears of his prowess and recruits him to be one of his top enforcers. Also, he's friends with Michael Max. Lawrence Blood. He's a world-class bullfighter and the right-hand man of Krauser. In fact, his family has served Krausers for generations. Krauser supports Lawrence in his endeavors, and in turn, Lawrence always does Krauser's bidding. Billy Khan. He returned to London after the first game with his sister, until he decided to join up with Krauser. He seems loyal, but this is just a ruse to overthrow Krauser for Geese. Wolfgang Krauser von Stroheim. Oh man, where do we start? His family is German nobility who got their start fighting off Roman legions. From there, they rose to prominence throughout history by espionage and violence, causing most of Europe's conflicts up to the 20th century. Krauser's father, Rudolf, married into the family after his mother, Elsa, fell in love with him and knocked her up. However, she didn't know that he had a whole-ass family in America that he left behind for her. One day, his son from America tried to assassinate Rudolf, but Krauser stopped his half-brother, who was none other than Geese Howard. Krauser's great-grandfather died, and his mother died soon after from drinking herself to death over the fact that Rudolf loved Geese's mother much more than her. Krauser challenges his father to a duel the day after Elsa's funeral, and Krauser kills his ass in one blow. After this, he becomes the Earl of Stroheim and the strongest one to hold the title in his family's history. Oh, sometime after this, Jeff and Hanzo fight Krauser and they strike his head so hard that the scar on his head never fully heals. Sometime later, he returns to Germany until the events of the game kick off. Holy shit. No wonder everybody else has no backstory. They give it all to this asshole. To be fair, you don't actually learn all of this in-game. All this has gotten fleshed out throughout the years by supplementary materials and retcons. There is one character that's technically part of the roster besides Geese, but we'll discuss him later.
Terry versus Kim.
Take this, my kick of justice! Ongetsu-zan! Ongetsu-zan!
Okay, I don't know about justice, but eat my crack you!
So, you possess a justice kick. Have you considered justice to be your lord and savior? A simple no would suffice, dick.
The two-plane system is back again in Fatal Fury 2/Special. Unlike the first game, you have a much easier time moving between planes. In the first game, it felt like I would get knocked or knock somebody else into the other plane involuntarily. This time, I feel as if I have more direct control over that outcome. Plus, when you add in the fact that you can attack while going from lane to lane, or knock back somebody doing it to you, feels much better than the first game. Then, there are some stages that have obstacles or hazards in the background that'll add extra variables to your standard bout.
Joe versus Duck.
So, it's not quite capoeira, but it's closer to breakdancing?
Yes.
Is it legit?
Is it legit? It's just like judo or taekwondo. It's been recognized by the Olympics as legit.
Show me.
Hey yo, pull it up on the big screen. Oh, come the fuck on!
Another big gameplay difference is the addition of SNK's 4-button configuration. This game gives you 2 punch buttons and 2 kick buttons, as opposed to the first game's 3. Throws are executed more traditionally instead of having a dedicated button for it. Special moves or fatal blows require mostly conventional motions and can be used whenever you want, just like in the first game. The big addition to everyone's move list is the introduction to the series' famous desperation attacks. So when your character has less than 33% health, they can use their desperation move, and if it connects, it will do massive damage against your opponent. It usually requires some difficult joystick and button combinations, but you can do it multiple times as long as you aren't KO'd. So, go ham.
Andy versus my.
Here comes my Shiranui! Ooh, dazzled by my beauty?
Hey, Mai. You're wearing less today.
Flattery will get you everywhere.
Okay, I'm starting the fight now. Joe Rebadon! Apart from the results, it was a good match.
The presentation is improved over the first game in every way. The sprites are bigger and have smoother animation than before. The color palette is vibrant and the music and sounds are much improved. Here are a few of some of my favorite tunes. Music and graphics are the same between 2 and Special, but the actual presentation differs between games. For example, after the intro and tutorial for 2, you're sent to a very unique character select screen with the main cast posted up against a black background. Once you select your character, you get a shot of the globe spinning around to land on your opponent's location. You're basically fighting across the world with some bonus stages thrown in until you beat everybody and start getting these cutscenes of Krauser beating up everybody that didn't make it into the sequel. Now it's time to fight his 3 enforcers and eventually Krauser himself. So you choose one of 8 characters and fight across the globe. Then you play at least 2 rounds of bonus stages where you break stuff, and at the end you fight 4 boss characters at the end of it all?
Boy, that sounds familiar.
Terry versus Billy.
Terrence? William? Was it good for you, or...? No, it's fine. Spill it. I feel like you're going through the motions. Like, you only go all out if Geese is involved. No, it's not true at all. Besides, Geese is totally dead. But that doesn't mean my fighting spirit dies with him. Oh, totally, brov. He's brown bread. Done and dusted. Billy? So that's what that looks like.
Special is a bit different presentation-wise. Once again, it's a new intro and demo screen which leads you to a more conventional character select screen. There are no cutscenes or bonus stages this time, and later you fight Geese before you get to Krauser. The win quotes are more in line with SNK's classic unhinged translations. This time we get such gems as
Wubba wubba, I'm in the pink today, boy.
Die like your father, you pin-headed son of an ice cream maker. Blood is thick, but syrup's thicker. Think about it.
The globe is gone, and there's no mention of this being a global tournament. Everything in Special is more streamlined. That's good in most ways, but I think a little bit of the charm from 2 is lost in the transition to Special.
Joe versus Axel.
I've always wanted to fight a Muay Thai fighter. It's on my bucket list, so I went all out. What do you think?
Yeah, this looks about as reliable as Texas Power Grid. You do know that deathmatch shit only exists in movies and unofficial bouts, right?
So, no Kumite?
Nope. And the taped glass fist stuff is a no-go too. Fuck it. I'm in the ring right now anyways, so let's go nuts.
Oh yeah!
One thing that wasn't lost in translation were all the ports to Fatal Fury 2 and Special. SNK made damn sure these games were everywhere. Besides the AES and the Neo Geo CD, Fatal Fury 2 got ported to the SNES and the Genesis here in the States. Back in Japan, it got ported to Game Boy, Sharp X6800, and the TurboGrafx 16, or what they call the PC engine over there. The AES and the CD are obviously the best ports as they're running on Neo Geo's hardware. The Genesis and SNES ports add in the sub-bosses via a cheat code, and both retain the full arcade ladder. Each one has an extra mode that the other doesn't, and if you're on Genesis, you get a survival mode. If you're on SNES, then you get Team Battle instead. As for the other ports, they never made it to the States. I wasn't able to find much info on the PC ports or the one on Game Boy outside of some screenshots and some gameplay footage. Going off of looks, they seem to have their own limitations, just like the 16-bit versions. The Game Boy is the most compromised of the bunch, but it's to be expected. The fact that it got a version at all is amazing by itself.
Andy versus Lauren.
That was splendid. Do you know how long I have searched for a competitor as driven as me? Yes, I feel as if we are kindred spirits. Yes, I knew it. You are also tired of these females. Yes, wait, pause. Females? I have come to the conclusion that women are nothing but bitches and whores who only value alpha males, but I am a Sigma, and I go my own way. At what point did I ever? The female back there cheering for you. You've basically been ignoring her since you've arrived in Spain.
Andy!
Can't argue with that, but it doesn't mean I'm a Sigma or whatever it is the hell you're talking about. It's not so bad when you disregard females. You can fully devote yourself to much more money, travel, hobbies, training. I'm not into. Wait, you said training. Go on.
Special has the same number of ports, but some of the systems are different. The SNES and the TurboGrafx/PC Engine ports returned, but the Genesis got swapped out with the Sega CD. The Game Boy got swapped out with the Game Gear port, and a port of Special got put out on a system called the FM Towns. So, what the fuck is the FM Towns? I don't know. This video is the first time I've ever heard of its existence, so if anybody's ever used this thing before, please sound off in the comments. This has got to be the most obscure console ever made. Anyway, the Game Gear and SNES ports perform as expected. The PC Engine never made it here, but it's probably the closest thing to the Neo Geo ports. The Sega CD port is a bit of a disappointment. It looks like the Neo Geo ports, but it doesn't sound like it or play nearly as smooth as the Neo Geo ports. The music is there, but the sound effects are fucked, and it moves at a somewhat slower speed. The PC Engine has better sound effects, but the graphics and music take a bit of a hit. The speed and the lack of modes are the same here too. So basically, unless you're running this on a Neo Geo, any and all ports of 2 and Special are going to be compromised in some way, shape, or form. And if you're worried about the FM Towns, I couldn't even find any footage of that shit. I imagine this a gimped up port too. Anyway, this brings us to the last section of the video, so let's wrap this bitch up. Just like any fighting game made in this era, we have nothing on the actual tournament itself. Just the outcome. Terry makes it to the finals where he comes face to face with Krauser himself.
Terry versus Krauser.
I'll chisel your gravestone. Sleep well. Kaiser, Wayne!
Jesus!
You fought well.
For a bastard crime lord, you are incredibly polite and sportsmanlike.
You can expect nothing less from the Earl of Stroheim.
I hope you're just as gracious in defeat too, Power Giza!
Okay. Wow. What a tough.
Despite his appearance, Krauser is much fairer than Geese was. So, you beat Krauser, and then what happens?
Hey, Richard! どんどん持ってきてくれ。腹が減って仕方がねえぜ。
What the hell is that?
Yeah, that's it. That's all you get, no matter who you beat the game with. It's barely anything. The most interesting thing about it is the fact that all the endings are voiced. Everybody speaks Japanese except for Duck King, Axel, and Krauser.
Now to pursue my true calling. Dance, dance, dance. Float like a feather, sting like a hornet. No, that's not it. Over so soon? Wow! What a tough!
Oh wow. Duck King and Axel sound okay. Geese is all wrong, and Krauser couldn't be arsed to speak a proper sentence. So that was Fatal Fury 2, and by association, Fatal Fury Special. Good games on their own right, but how they compare to Street Fighter 2 and Champion Edition. So if you're asking if Fatal Fury 2 is better than Street Fighter 2, the answer is yes, at least on a technical level. SNK's hardware far surpasses Capcom's CPS-1 board. Gameplay-wise, it all comes down to how you feel about the lane system. Personally, I could take it or leave it, as SNK ditches the lane system in later games anyway. Not that it really matters in the grand scheme of things, as Fatal Fury 2 copies Street Fighter 2's homework down to the base concept of 8 fighters competing in a global tournament. That's not a bad thing to follow the leader. Without Mario, there would be no Sonic. Without Doom, there would be no Halo. In the gaming industry, imitation leads to innovation. Just look at all the hero shooters that came out after Overwatch. Well, not that one. Street Fighter 2's impact cannot be overstated, so it's not really a fair comparison. But what about Special and Champion Edition? Once again, they're a year apart and they basically do the same things and have the same overall vibe as their vanilla versions. But which one had the bigger impact? It's Fatal Fury Special. Special had more of an impact on the genre than Championship Edition ever did. And it's all because of this guy right here, Ryo Sakazaki. This guy is the main character of SNK's Art of Fighting series. Ryo is the Ryu of the series. That CVS2 intro hits a bit different now, don't it? Art of Fighting came out the year prior, and the guys at SNK thought it might be fun to put Ryo in as a hidden boss that only shows up if you go through the entire arcade mode without losing a round. Word of mouth spread, and gamers made it a point to make it to this fight to witness what was probably the first crossover cameo in fighting game history. And to take things even further, they made him a playable character in the home ports of Special.
Okay, so let me get this straight. You're from Southtown?
Right, but in the past, I think.
And you met some psychic teenagers, and one of them is a purple-haired reincarnation of a goddess.
Right. And there's a couple of mercenaries I ran into before I got here.
The fuckers from the tank and the aliens? Get serious!
No, not them. The guy in the bandana and his partner of the Shades. They're going to this thing too. You wanna come?
Hey, come on! Andy, Joe, we're going on a road trip.
And people loved it so much that SNK decided to spin it off into its own thing starting in 1994 with the first KOF game, and the rest is history. Just imagine, one small throwaway Easter egg gave birth to one of the most enduring fighting game franchises of all time. Sometimes, good ideas come from just having a bit of fun. Well, that's all I have to say about Fatal Fury 2 and Special. The next game in line is Fatal Fury 3. Thematically, it's weird as fuck, but I don't feel like Fatal Fury really comes into its own until a third entry. But don't worry about that. I'll tell you all about in the next installment of Fatal Fury Anthology.